I'm going to call this meeting to order. Is that thing on? Doesn't sound like. I'm going to call the House Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Subcommittee together. And I would ask Chairman Yerda if he would say a prayer for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for the beauty of this day. We thank you for all our many blessings. We thank you for the privilege of being Americans and living in the state of Georgia. Help guide and direct us on our decisions that we make to benefit all of Georgians in this state. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. There's quite a few things in the committee. Most of these things are going to have to just remain in the bosom of the committee until next year, I think. I do want to call on, not everything, but I want to call upon Chairman, can't remember people's name this morning. Dickey, Chairman Dickey.
I understand.
All those speech for you, Mr. Chairman.
We all go there.
And Chairman Dickey has a bill we voted out about 2 weeks ago, and he had recommitted to the committee to make some changes in it, and now he's ready to present the bill. If you would present it.
Would it be okay,
Chairman
Mr. Chairman, to stay right here?
Yes, certainly.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, committee. And as Chairman Parsons says, we did pass this out, and I realized when it got to rules, some other interested parties came with some good, positive suggestions, and I just want to thank Jeff Cowan and his team over at EPD for making some great suggestions, and also Tom Krause over at PSC for trying to help. But mostly, the gentleman sitting right back here behind me, led Council Nick Tate. This is probably the third or fourth sub to this bill, trying to get it right. And so I think we do, and I'd like to ask your consideration on this. The main change, and as I've told y'all before, Representative Kelly's bill 300 last year really did what this bill's doing as well, is making sure there's some financial wherewithal when these solar facilities get to the end of their life, become obsolete, that there's somebody standing there with some money to put them back in the original state. I just really got a bad feeling that at some point in the future, these solar facilities are going to be obsolete and going to be liabilities to the landowner and to the state of Georgia. And so I just want to, the developers have said they will be there with their pocketbook to restore the land. And this bill just kind of builds on Representative Kelly's 300 last year to make sure it is. And if you want to turn to line 167 is where 168, and this bill says prior to the operation of these facilities, EPD will provide evidence that you do have some sort of financial instrument there or ability to decommission these solar facilities. And so you just show EPD that prior to starting operation of these things, and we're all good. It's very little work on EPD's part, very little on the developer, and so that is really what this bill does. Just show me the evidence that you said that you're going to do what you want to do. And the rest of the bill is just goes through what we did. So
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I don't see any. Anybody hadn't signed up to speak on this, have they? Okay, nobody signed to speak on it. I want to thank you for your hard work on this. I know you've worked hard and very, carefully even bring it back to the committee to make some changes, and I appreciate that. No questions. What is the will of the committee?
Move to pass. LC 550548. I'm sorry, 84S. 0584S.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
We have a motion. I think we heard to do pass on committee substitute House Bill 249 LC 550584S. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify your approval to send it on with, to approve it with a, by saying aye. I'm sorry. Aye. Any opposed, say no. This bill is passed, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Thank you very much. Let's see, the next one on the agenda, HB 346, that's by Representative Parsons, and I'm going to let that lie in the committee until next year. Next one, well, the last one on here is House Resolution 398 by Representative Jordan Ridley. We've spoken about this, and we're going to let that lie in the committee till next year. And with that, House Bill 389 by Representative Bell, you're here. We're going to hear your bill. We may or may not have a vote on it, but we'll hear your bill right now.
Good morning, committee. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to bring forth HB 387. Last year, I was happy to say that I brought this bill forth committee for a hearing, and there was a little concern about the bill, and I think we were able to work that out this year.
You said 87.
389, excuse me. Those numbers get me sometimes. But I'm glad to be back before the committee this year. Last year, I was able to have a hearing on this bill. It was tabled because some of the overreach, or felt there might be overreach or maybe too much deregulation in the industry of solar as we try to bring it to our homeowners and property owners across the state. Currently, there are over 2 million people who live in the pseudo-government structures called HOAs or POAs or whatever you want to call them. And there seems to be a bit overreach when they're providing Georgians with access to solar panel and renewable energy. This year, the bill simply prohibits, as it did last year, will prohibit the HOA or POA from blocking a solar panel, but with a caveat that they may still refuse the particular type of solar panel if it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the community, or it's not actually on the roof of the home structure or behind a privacy fence. Again, making sure the aesthetics of the community are abided by. And with that, I yield the. No, well, I'm done.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Any questions? We do have a question. I don't know who it is. Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bell, help me understand the process for how a homeowner would apply to their HOA to ask if they can put a solar panel on their property.
Well, each HOA is different, so they're governed by all different specific bylaws. This may be something that we might want to look at at a different time with a different bill. So maybe we can codify code between HOAs, just like how we codify codes between cities and other municipalities. I think that might be something we can look into in a different bill. But as it states now, HOAs have different covenants and bylaws across the state that they can change and amend at will.
And so if a HOA board, through whatever process, determines that they don't think this solar panel complies with the aesthetics and the guidelines in your legislation, what happens next? Does a property owner just say, okay, thank you, or what happens if they don't agree?
The next step the HOA will just provide them with a solar panel of comparable price that fits the aesthetic of the neighborhood.
What if there's not one? What if the homeowner says, I don't agree with that, and there's a dispute? What happens?
Well, that goes into the court of law. As there's many disputes with HOAs, whether it's a foreclosure, whether it's the grass is too high. Typically, the HOA retains a lawyer and comes after that person. There may be another thing that we should look at as far as housing, making sure HOAs don't have overreach and foreclosures when we're looking at the crisis in the state of Georgia.
And who would have to fund the litigation cost for the HOA during that?
Again, it will be governed by the bylaws of the HOA.
Are those costs spread with the other property owners inside the like if say it costs $100,000 to litigate this issue, and there's 100 homes in the HOA, would each homeowner have to pay $1,000 each, like be assessed?
No, those fees will come out the HOA fees based on the bylaws and
But who
coverage
pays
of the
HOA fees?
homeowners.
Okay, so my scenario could happen. If they had to cover $100,000 worth of litigation costs, and it's spread out over 100 owners, they could maybe be assessed $1,000 each, correct?
If the HOA board and president chooses to litigate to the assessed fee of $100,000, and their bylaws state that they can do cost sharing for litigation amongst their members in the HOA, that scenario could be plausible.
Okay, thank you. Just have a concern of the litigation costs and what that can mean for property owners who've chosen to live somewhere where they don't want these panels. So thank you.
Typically, I would think before litigation goes, it goes before the HOA board, before the community, and hopefully that community has a say-so on their HOA and not a rogue president or a rogue committee that chooses to litigate and put the burden on their on the homeowners.
Well, I mean, it could be the whole board, the whole neighborhood's determined that they want something a certain way, and you could have one rogue property owner who's chosen to live. Look, I think HOAs are stupid. I never lived in one myself, but some people want to live in a certain place because they want it to look a certain way, and they want it to have certain cultural, guidelines.
Yeah, aesthetics, yeah.
And so now you're holding the others hostage for the choices of one person who's chosen to move in there, knowing the guidelines that were in place at that time. So that's where I think that my concern is that you could have one person throw a lot of cost on individuals because of a very, very small minority piece. That's my concern. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. Care to take a question from Chairman Martin?
Yeah.
So my question is, the homeowners association, notwithstanding what the learned gentleman from Northwest Georgia said about HOA being good or bad, isn't it? Wouldn't you agree? It's an agreement between private parties,
The chairman knows what he speaks of.
right? So it's an agreement between private parties. So we're deciding here that the state's going to tell people they can't prohibit something in a private agreement. Well, it says after 2026 you can't prohibit them, but you have to allow for a way to go. My question is this. I mean, I understand what the gentleman's trying to do, but my question is this. Who are we to tell somebody that they have to take something out of a homeowner's agreement? I mean, if you don't like the agreement, don't buy a home in a neighborhood that says you can't have solar. I mean, isn't that true? That if you're not forced to buy a home in a neighborhood that where the HOA has to have solar, and in fact, isn't it true that there may be neighborhoods in the future that don't have this and they'll do it of their own making?
Possibilities are endless.
Further true is if somebody entered in a private agreement and now they want to do solar and the covenant says they can't do solar, they can avail themselves of due process in court today.
Yes, sir.
They may or may not prevail since they willingly signed that. So, I mean, I understand what the gentleman is trying to do, and I think this may be us nosing into agreements that are already in place and some that would, because I think the way I look at it is if they were amended later on. So that's what concern, isn't it true? That I'm worried about if folks in there want to change their covenants and bylaws, they have the ability to do that. And I'm resident to stick our nose in for this and that. So I wonder, you do agree it's a private agreement entered into willingly by both parties?
It is. Thank you for the response. But it wouldn't be the first private agreement that we have as a legislature postured to regulate. So I don't think this would be a far overreach. The gentleman cannot speak of that at this time. It wouldn't be germane to the subject.
Well, he wants me to be my Southern lawyer. You opened yourself up for that line of questioning. No, I appreciate it. I would be interested if you have some later.
Yes, sir.
As a precedent, that'd be interesting. Fair enough.
Yeah, thank you.
Both Mr. Bell and I are shy of our law degrees. So.
I've learned it too, hanging around you guys and ladies here.
I think you may have another, I don't know, they disappeared?
No, that's it.
Any other questions?
I think you have somebody over here without a button over here. She's
Okay, I
she's
think-
using somebody else's button.
Go ahead, we'll get her.
Chairman, I just was wondering, was there a backstory? What prompted this bill?
A coworker of mine had an issue with his HOA denying a panel, and when someone buys a home, they invested in their possibly their life savings, that they should have the freedoms to do so. And it more so prompted from they didn't even, the emphasis of it started with who would pay for the installation and removal if a solar panel on a shared roof. And then it became, well, why should they be able to block a solar panel at all? So that was the impetus of it. A coworker of mine was having issues with his own solar panel, and finding out that they wouldn't allow solar panels because they didn't want to pay for the installation or reinstallation on the shared roof. So in this bill, it mentions that if the roof was to be repaired, that the owner of the solar panel would be liable for the installation and reinstallation of the solar panel.
All right, you have more questions, if you'll take them. Representative Koya.
Yes, my question would be for probably the lawyers in the committee. We encourage on local control. Wouldn't that be the same case based on Chairman Martin's question about private agreements, that we can also encourage on it if we can encourage on local controls? Can I? Just kidding.
I would just say probably, my view of the local control and local decision-making process would take place through the governance of the HOA. So if the elected members of the HOA board decided they wanted to approve or deny or revise their covenants, that would be the local control in my mind, not every individual, just kind of going rogue. If you agree to live in a community and you've elected people to represent you to set your covenants, and that sometimes you get the consequences of your elections.
I don't live in an HOA. I don't like them either, but
Representative Koya, after the last couple of days being long sessions, I'm probably about as exhausted as anybody else. I'm going to be more formal than normal. Normally, though, you need to go through the chair when you ask a question to anybody. If you have a question to another member, you need to come through the chair to do that. You can't just ask them a question. Everything gets all disorganized. But right now, it's no big deal. Okay. Representative Roman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the committee, I did want to just take a moment to share an experience we've had in my neighborhood, and I think it might maybe illuminate, because when I personally saw this bill, it intrigued me, because we have been getting, in my district, a lot of emails about HOAs and HOA overreach, and Georgia is one of the few places that doesn't have any entity that regulates HOAs. The problem in our neighborhood specifically is that so many private equity companies and owners are buying up these homes. So when an HOA meeting happens, it is impossible to get quorum in order to change some of these covenants. And so what we're seeing around the state in particular is that where these companies are buying up a lot of these homes, because it's hard to reach them because they don't have a primary contact, we can't force them to come to a meeting to then have a conversation. So even if the renters themselves, who are either short-term or long-term renters, would want to come to the HOA meeting, they can't actually serve on behalf of that HOA. And I know that's what's way broader than the context of this committee, but I do think on this issue, because we are sort of the Energy, Utility, and Telecoms Committee, this is something that, and we've heard about it from so many different ways of, HOA fees going up, having no recourse on covenants. In our neighborhood, for example, we do have an HOA board, but the people who do all of the upkeep and work is an HOA management company. So not only are these homes now being owned by companies, the HOA itself is being managed by a company. And so what we normally see as like traditional HOA processes are kind of falling apart around the country. And so, part of the reason I do want to tell the gentleman that, we've talked about this bill before, and I do think that it's sort of, we wouldn't let an HOA say you can't have internet. And you know, I just, in my personal opinion, I just think that, or if you have like a dish, for example, for your satellite, they'll tell you like where to put it so it's not an eyesore, but to outright say no, I think should be something that we worry about. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Did you want to respond to that?
Thank you. The gentlewoman knows what she speaks of. Thank you for the support. And as well as she mentioned the dish bill that was passed prior to many of us being here. This will be in correlation with that, where HOAs cannot block owners from having dishes or the dish system on their homes.
Yeah, I would say that's a good question. And in response to what the gentleman, Chairman Martin, had said, I think that the members of an HOA, he said they have the opportunity to try to change things in the HOA. I think the fact of the matter is they have the opportunity to try to change things in the HOA, and some of them are, and they do a lot of good. They do a lot of good. I have a house in 2 different HOAs, and one of them is so strict it's absolutely ridiculous. The other one, I wish it was more strict to take care of some things in the neighborhood. But it's you know, it's akin to coming down here. All of us legislators have the opportunity to try to do things, change things. We have the opportunity to try to do that, but we don't. It's not an opportunity just to get it done, as we know. And Representative Bell's going to find out here in just a little bit. But good question. Thank you. I think that Representative Paris. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I just a few comments. I want to ditto what Representative Roman said. I want to thank the gentleman for attempting to assist or help your friend that was having some trouble. But in the world of real estate, you're always buyer beware. You have to read. They have to read the
fine print.
Well, it's not even fine print. The HOA constitution for whatever community it is. Sometimes they're hard to get your hands on, but the bottom line is the buyers have to beware. But I think that this is something that definitely needs to be addressed, because we're not addressing as a body the power of the HOAs. And I think that that's something that probably that's the better angle for us, is maybe to go into whatever committee that does have an opportunity to regulate HOAs, because it's just a growing problem.
Thank you. Very good comment.
Thank you for the comment, ma'am.
Chairman Dickey, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just appreciate Representative Kelly's diligent efforts to point out any effort to lessen litigation costs around this state, and I really appreciate his wanting to do that. So anything we can do to lessen litigation costs, I would be for, and I'd like to make a motion we table this bill for the
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to table this House Bill 389. Is there any discussion? I'll add some discussion, and that's fine if that's the will of the committee. I don't. If that's a will of the committee, my intent was to have the hearing today and let it lie in the committee till next year.
That's fine.
I'll have to take a vote.
And I've been informed by council maybe there's some issues, legitimate issues in the bill that would have to be addressed anyway before it could be moved on. So if it's and here again, the committee can do whatever they want to. I'm not trying to tell you. I just think it would be okay to let it lie. So.
I'll withdraw my
Okay.
second if it's a hearing
Okay.
over.
So the motion has been withdrawn. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, I think.
Is there possibly some amendments to the bill that members might want to make while we're in committee?
Well, we're not going to do that
Okay.
today. Was there another question?
Move,
I thought
sorry.
somebody would come on. No, I think not. And with that, that's what we will do. But I do want to tell you, I appreciate your work on it. Representative Drenner had a bill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember how close it was to this, but it addressed the same issue. It's been several years ago, and I think her bill got all the way to the floor, as I remember, and then it didn't make it any further. And there are issues with it. I mean, there have been legitimate, very legitimate questions and objections that have been raised. I think they all have to be taken in consideration. Some very, very good comments on. Oh, there was somebody wanting to speak on it. I'm sorry. Did you still? Who? You're not who asked me to speak.
I did ask to speak. I'm with the Georgia Community Associations Institute.
Oh, if you do, if you want to speak, you have to come up here to the witness stand. Okay. We're not going to swear. We're not going to swear you in or anything, but. There you go.
Thank you. The Georgia Community Associations Institute opposes House Bill 389 and the regulation of the solar panels, specifically in the language of this bill, because it allows
Tell us again who you're with. I'm sorry, I missed
the
it.
Georgia Community Associations Institute.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it. Okay.
CAI is the organization that represents the interests of community associations, approximately 11,000 community associations in the state of Georgia.
And I appreciate you coming to speak. If you could just make it brief, because we're not going to move on the bill. So.
Okay. We have problems with this bill because it allows for the installation of solar devices on common property, and that could potentially cause issues with having costs spread to all homeowners by the action of one specific homeowner. And we don't oppose environmental and energy efficiency policies, but we want those policies to recognize the governance and contractual obligations of community associations. Residents are really the best mechanism to enact those policies. Every community association is different, every community is different, and those community members are really the best to move forward with deciding how to implement those energy efficiency policies.
Okay. Well, thank you for presenting. I'm going to allow one more question. Representative Rumman has a question, I think, to you, to the lady.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And hi. So thank you for coming to testify. And it sounds like your concern with the bill is about sort of the shared space in a neighborhood, not necessarily like a person's roof. And my question to you is, do you all have any data on how many of these neighborhoods the owners of the home actually lives there? Because as I mentioned in my comments, in our covenant, we need, I think it's like 2/3 majority of the actual homeowners to vote on a change to the covenant. It can't just be the board itself. Have you all been able to track maybe any of that or identify that as a potential hurdle?
Yes, and I do recognize that as a hurdle, and there are some national numbers on that, and I can get you those national numbers on how many investor-owned properties there are. I think there is a perception that there is this extreme problem with investor-owned properties when it's really a very small percentage, and it's located in very specific areas.
Yeah, that's why mine is one of them. So I'm just like curious to see where we fit on that. Thank you so much.
I did want to ask, you may have said it, but if you'll tell us your name.
My name is Shelby Purdue,
Shelby
and
Purdue.
I'm a community association
That is
attorney.
the name I have on here. Thank you very much. Representative, we're not going to move on your bill. Like I say, I think there's some technical issues with it. No time to get it through a subcommittee and try to correct it or perfect it or anything like that. With that, we're going to keep it in the committee. I appreciate we have really good attendance today, and I appreciate that. This will be the last meeting, quite obviously, before crossover. We'll meet next week. I know we have at least one Senate bill in the committee. We'll plan on meeting on next week. And with that, I appreciate everybody. Anything anybody wants to add for the good of the order? With that, we are adjourned.